You're a demon, apparently. Chapter 4. Your lungs burned as you ran. It had been a while since you had exercised, even before you had ended up here. Amber's hooves on the floor echoes throughout the dimly lit tunnel. She probably could have easily outran you, but instead, she stayed close behind.
How long's this goddamn tunnel?
It felt like hours since the two of you had fled. Amber unfortunately had not been allowed much access to wherever you were, and as such, didn't know about the layout very well. So the only choice had been to pick a tunnel blindly. You had chosen poorly. The tunnel you found yourself in was, well, it was shit. Loose stones were everywhere, only the occasional torch was still burning on the walls and they were dying to boot. Whatever magic batteries that kept them running for so long was probably wearing out, assuming that was a thing here. So this tunnel was probably not used much, and so it had been allowed to rot. After what felt like an eternity, you finally see an end to the tunnel. It was an old wooden door that had an old-timey medieval feel. At first, it refused to budge. With a great heave, you managed to force the rusted door with a sickening screech. You really hope that no one heard that. You blink against the contrasting light outside, and more running. Eventually, you just couldn't run anymore, and you collapsed. Trying to catch your breath, you sit up to try and get your bearings. You were in a lightly forested area with a rocky hill behind you. That was probably where the cult's hideout was. Amber trotted up next to you and sat down with a concerned look. Out of habit, you began stroking her head, to which she didn't object. As you managed to calm down and think, you couldn't help but reflect on what had just happened. Or rather, what you could have done instead. Should you have stayed and try to explain the situation? Just say, "Yeah, I don't care what you do to this wacko, just leave me out." And hope that they don't just blast you to ash? I mean, it could have worked, but then again, they seemed more the blast first, blast again than once more for good measure type. If there was a chance to negotiate, you probably missed it. Maybe you could have taken one, if not all of their magic bling? I mean, you couldn't use pony magic, you tried, a little more than you'd like to admit, but that didn't seem to be a problem with this. The non-unicorns use them just fine, so maybe you could too? I mean, they seem to believe that they had all the power to send you home, so if you could figure out how to work them, you could maybe do it yourself. Although, without any clue how magic worked, you could easily just break them, or you could break yourself. Maybe you could just pawn them off for some cash. Local currency would be nice, and they looked valuable with all the gold and jewels and stuff. But wouldn't any town or shop that saw you just freak out? Even with the whole demon thing, you kinda still look weird to them. Could you have brought one of the friendlier cultists with you? Some of them were genuinely nice, if a little misguided, like Anarchy. You didn't think that he deserved to rot in some jail cell somewhere, although, given how winded you were with carrying yourself here, carrying an unconscious horse probably would only slow you down. That, and also the cult was ultimately loyal to Father, so they'd likely stab you in the back. Maybe literally, in that case. But what if you brought one of those elements with you? Maybe you could have tried to convince them that you're not a threat. Wimpy or Prissy would have been the best choices. They seem like they wouldn't put much of a fight. Okay, thinking is over. That just kind of seemed a little creepy. You let out a sigh, bemoaning your lack of action. You'd panicked, and you just wanted to get out. So, here you were, in the middle of nowhere, with no clue what to do next, or where to go. Moving on was probably for the best, but you were tired. Besides, the elements would probably be out for a while, they'd be busy with Father for a while, and then they'd have to figure out which way you'd gone. By then, you could be miles away, so there was time to rest for a moment. So, here you sat with your back to a tree, with your only friend in this world, a scarred unicorn that was currently enjoying an ear-scratched-induced trance. Now that you thought about it, could you actually trust her? After all, she was a part of the cult that had forced you here. Granted, the relationship was downright horrific to her, but still, a traitor is still a traitor. And this particular traitor had willingly freed a creature that she thought to be some terrible being with devastating power. Would she try to sell you out? Attempt to get power of her own? Or would she just leave you alone in this strange world that had only ever tried to use or destroy you? Which was the worst that she could do to you? What was going on behind that admittedly adorable face? You stop scratching, eliciting a tiny whine of protest. Amber, we need to talk. You state firmly. The mare stares at you with fear and unease forming behind her gaze.
What is it, Master?
She stammered. Why did you do that? You ask, crossing your arms. Amber didn't immediately answer, shifting her weight as she found the dirt very interesting.
You're the only one who's ever been nice to me in a long time. I don't want you to go away.
She choked, her eyes getting wet.
I know it's selfish, and I know you probably just want to go back to your home, but...
She couldn't go on as she broke down in ugly sobs. Okay, so she probably wasn't planning to turn against you, or maybe she was an amazing actress and you were an incredible sucker. Either way, you couldn't just sit there like a jackass. Was that a slur here? That's a question for later. Wrapping your arm around her neck, you draw her in for a hug. Thanks. Amber looked up at you with a sad smile.
I had to do something. You're my master, after all.
No, quit calling me that. I'm not anyone's master. She cocked her head.
Anyone? You mean any pony, Master?
She asked. You wave your hand. Whatever, same thing, just quit calling me that. Amber giggled.
You're a strange one, Master. Even for a demon.
Well, maybe it's because I'm not a demon and Father's a dumbass. You groan. Silence then filled the area. You found yourself studying, Amber. In your time here, you hadn't had much else to do but just study these ponies. Yet, there were still things that you couldn't quite figure out. While you had barely made it this far without passing out, Amber wasn't even winded. This was still the same mare that looked like she was on death's door less than a month ago, and she was still outpacing you. It must be a horse thing, or maybe you were just out of shape, or both. However, the strangest thing was on her hind legs. There was a picture of a stylized eye with an orange rock for a pupil. It was on either of her sides, and you had seen it before, but now was the first time you really thought about it. Amber didn't strike you as the tattoo kind of girl, so maybe it was a cult thing, or maybe all the cultists had the same one, a show of loyalty or something. There's no harm in asking, right? I didn't take you for the tramp stamp type.
Wait, what?
She replied, her cocking to the side in confusion. That picture on your leg. Was it a cult entry tattoo kind of thing? You say as you point to her leg.
Oh, you mean my cutie mark. Every pony has one, but each one is different. You probably didn't notice the others before because none of them really took off their robes around you. I guess demons don't get their marks, do they?
She asked. I'm not... You sigh. It's not worth the effort. No. These are kind of a new thing for me. So, do they do anything?
They appear when a foal discovers their special talent. Mostly happens just before puberty.
So, what's yours?
Huh?
She blinked. You know, your special talent. What's yours? You asked, giving her a playful nudge on her shoulder. Amber didn't reply, as the ground became fascinating to her again. Amber, if it's something really personal for you ponies, you don't have to... You start.
No, it's just...
She started, but trailed off. She pawed in the dirt, deep in thought. Taking a deep breath, she started again.
I found my talent rather late. I was beginning to think I'd never find out what it was, but then during a visit to the rock farm, I found it.
You then sat in silence, deciding now wasn't the time to ask what in the hell a rock farm was for.
I found a piece of amber. You know, fossilized tree sap. This one wasn't all that special, it didn't have a bug or a leaf in it, but something happened.
She stopped, her voice catching in her throat. And? You gently prompted. I
had a vision. I saw an explosion of color, like a prismatic fire spreading across the sky. When I told Father about it, he didn't believe me. Not at first, at least. Not until it happens, just like I saw it. It's clairvoyance. That's what my cutie mark is for. Father couldn't have been happier. Until...
Amber looked away, but you could see the tears beginning to form.
But what happened? Seeing the future like that is something that he'd want on his side.
Because I don't see the future. Not exactly. My visions aren't all that precise.
She whispered.
So, what you see doesn't necessarily always happen?
Amber shook her head.
No. I see what might happen, but that's not what will happen. When he found out, Father was...
A hoof drifted to her scarred back.
displeased.
Oh.
It was a stupid thing to say, but it was all you could think of. You reminded her of all the terrible things Father did to her, even when she was a filly. Wait.
Father was around even when you were a filly? How did that work?
Her copper eyes met yours.
Well, he did raise me.
Oh, okay then. Wait, what?
You shout.
He's like your actual father.
Amber flinched.
Yes, he actually started calling himself that after I accidentally said it in front of a few members. It was after he found out my special talent wasn't as useful as he thought it would be, so he didn't want to acknowledge that we were related.
You had no words. You felt numb. The one thing that you could feel was hate. Well, no, that wasn't strong enough. Fury. Well, still not exact, but it was better. Your relationship with your own father wasn't exactly stellar, but this was on a different level entirely.
That son of a bitch. What kind of father? I can't... He doesn't have the right to call himself that.
You managed to sputter out through your unbridled rage.
Well, I deserved it.
No, don't you even go there.
You cut her off and swept her into a hug. You were pretty sure you had heard her spine pop a few times, but you didn't care. She needed a hug, and much more. There wasn't a doubt left in your mind that you were going to protect this precious child.
You didn't deserve any of that. And if you keep thinking that you do, I swear to God, I will stop scratching your ears.
Amber looked like a frightened rabbit in your arms. With her ears flattened on her head, and her eye a little more than a pinprick, her light blue face suddenly turned very red with a blush.
Okay, Master.
She squeaked. The two of you stared for an awkward moment. You were still pissed, but after your outburst, you'd lost a lot of steam.
We should keep moving.
You finally say.
Yes, Master. Could you please...
She trailed off, glancing from you to the ground.
Oh, right. Sorry.
You realize, and set her gently onto the ground. You decide not to go at a full sprint, but with some semblance of speed. Distance and speed were important, but exhausting yourself was not going to help much. As the two of you continued through the trees, you notice Amber was staying a bit further away than before with a far-off expression. Great. You fucked up. Again. You felt pressing the matter wouldn't help, so you just kept on going forwards. As you went on your way at a jog, you had your own thoughts. Specifically, what the most satisfying way to get revenge on a horse was. Ooh. Seems like either Anonymous has adopted her as his child, or he probably likes her. Although, I guess we're gonna have to find out in the near and dear future. Now, let's get on to our precious donators. Top donators, Dash of Evergreen, Peter Coulthard, J Tinman, and Darkside. CourierCruz CI, Delta Omega, RuneScythe 9852, Dospo, Ryanny Dragonwolf, Secret Moon, Tal Rasha, The Toilet Snake, Cerberus, Starlight Glimmer, Squiddy Boy, David E. Sanchez, Soul Dragon, Gaggy, Trey, Shadow Drake, Joe Piercy, Alex F., Rainbow Dash, Teal K. Anderson, TV Killer, and John Becker. thank you all very much for watching this video, live life to the fullest, and if you're trying to record near a busy road on a busy day, Godspeed to you, man, because it's one pain in the fucking ass.